Kristoffer Kristian Kristofferson is an American country music singer, songwriter, musician, and film actor. He is known for writing and recording such hits as Me and Bobby McGee, For the Good Times, Sunday Morning Comin Down, and Help Me Make It Through the Night. Kristofferson is the sole writer of most of his songs, and he has collaborated with various other figures of the Nashville scene such as Shel Silverstein. In 1985, Kristofferson joined fellow country artists Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash in forming the country music supergroup the Highwaymen. In 2004, Kristofferson was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. He is also known for his acting work, including his role as Earl Hurley in the Motel Life, which he co-starred in opposite Emile Hirsch, Stephen Dorff, and Dakota Fanning. Early life: Kristoffer Kristofferson was born in Brownsville, Texas, to Mary Ann and Lars Henry Kristofferson, a U.S. Army Air Corps officer. His paternal grandparents emigrated from Sweden, while his mother had English, Scots-Irish, German, Swiss German, and Dutch ancestry. Kristofferson's paternal grandfather was an officer in the Swedish Army. When Kristoffer was a child, his father pushed him towards a military career. Education: like most military brats, Kristofferson moved around frequently as a youth, finally settling down in San Mateo, California, where he graduated from San Mateo High School. An aspiring writer, Kristofferson enrolled in Pomona College in 1954. He experienced his first dose of fame when he appeared in Sports Illustrated's Faces in the Crowd for his achievements in collegiate rugby union, football, and track and field. He and classmates revived the Claremont College's rugby club in 1958, which has remained a Southern California rugby dynasty. Kris became a member of Kappa Delta fraternity at Pomona College, graduating in 1958 with a B.A., summa cum laude in literature. In a 2004 interview with Pomona College magazine, Kristofferson mentioned philosophy professor Frederick Sontag as an important influence in his life. Kristofferson earned a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford University, where he studied at Merton College. While at Oxford, he was awarded his Blue for boxing and began writing songs. With the help of his manager, Larry Parnes, he recorded for Top Rank Records under the name Kris Carson. Parnes was working to sell Kris as a Yank at Oxford to the British public. Kris was willing to accept that promotional approach if it helped his singing career, which he hoped would enable him to progress towards his goal of becoming a novelist. This early phase of his music career was unsuccessful. In 1960, Kristofferson graduated with a BPhil in English literature and married his longtime girlfriend, Fran Beer. Kris has stated that he was greatly influenced by the poet William Blake while at Oxford, who had proclaimed that if one has a God-given creative talent then one should use it or else reap sorrow and despair. Kristofferson sent some of his compositions to a friend's relative, Mary John Wilkin, a successful Nashville, Tennessee, songwriter, but when he arrived in the town to see Sam Phillips of Sun Records his shoes were, according to Phillips, falling off his feet. Military career: Kris, under pressure from his family, ultimately joined the U.S. Army and achieved the rank of captain. He became a helicopter pilot after receiving flight training at Fort Rucker, Alabama. He also completed Ranger School. During the early 1960s, he was stationed in West Germany as a member of the 8th Infantry Division. It was during this time that he resumed his music career and formed a band. In 1965, when his tour of duty ended, Kristofferson was given an assignment to teach English literature at West Point. Instead, he decided to leave the Army and pursue songwriting. His family disowned him because of this decision and they never reconciled with him. They saw it as a rejection of everything they stood for, in spite of the fact that Kristofferson has said he is proud of his time in the military, and received the AVA Veteran of the Year award in 2003. Career: music. After leaving the Army in 1965, Kristofferson moved to Nashville. He worked at a variety of odd jobs while struggling for success in music, burdened with medical expenses resulting from his son's defective esophagus. He and his wife soon divorced. He got a job sweeping floors at Columbia Studios in Nashville. There he met Johnny Cash, who initially accepted some of Kristofferson's songs, but chose not to use them. During Kristofferson's janitorial stint for Columbia, Bob Dylan recorded his landmark 1966 album Blonde on Blonde at the studio. Although he had the opportunity to watch some of Dylan's recording sessions, Kristofferson never met Dylan out of fear that he would be fired for approaching him. He also worked as a commercial helicopter pilot at the time for a South Louisiana firm called Petroleum Helicopters International, based in Lafayette, Louisiana. Kristofferson recalled of his days as a pilot, "That was about the last 3 years before I started performing, before people started cutting my songs. I would work a week down here, in South Louisiana for Phi, sitting on an oil platform and flying helicopters. Then I'd go back to Nashville at the end of the week and spend a week up there trying to pitch the songs, then come back down and write songs for another week. I can remember Help Me Make It Through the Night I wrote sitting on top of an oil platform. I wrote Bobby McGee Down Here, and a lot of them, in South Louisiana." In 1966, Dave Dudley released a successful Kristofferson single, Vietnam Blues. In 1967, Kristofferson signed to Epic Records and released a single, Golden Idol/Killing Time, but the song was not successful. Within the next few years, more Kristofferson originals hit the charts, performed by Roy Drusky, Billy Walker and the Tennessee Walkers, Ray Stevens, Jerry Lee Lewis, Baron Young, and Roger Miller. He achieved some success as a performer himself, following Johnny Cash's introduction of Kristofferson at the Newport Folk Festival. Kristofferson had previously grabbed Cash's attention when he landed his helicopter in Cash's yard without prior arrangement and gave him some tapes. Note: Kristofferson said in an interview that Johnny Cash actually was not at home when he landed the helicopter on Cash's lawn. The story about Kristofferson having a beer in one hand and some songs in the other is a fable. Kristofferson signed to Monument Records as a recording artist. In addition to running that label, Fred Foster also served as manager of Combine Music, Kristofferson's songwriting label. His debut album for Monument in 1970 was Kristofferson, which included a few new songs as well as many of his previous hits. Sales were poor, although this debut album would become a success the following year when it was re-released under the title Me and Bobby McGee. Kristofferson's compositions were still in high demand. Ray Price, Waylon Jennings, Bobby Bare, Johnny Cash and Sammy Smith all recorded successful versions of his songs in the early 1970s. For the Good Times won Song of the Year in 1970 from the Academy of Country Music, while Sunday Morning Coming Down won the same award from the Academy's rival, the Country Music Association, in the same year. This is the only time an individual received the same award from these two organizations in the same year for different songs. In 1971, Janis Joplin, who dated Kristofferson for some time until her death, had a #1 hit with Me and Bobby McGee from her posthumous Pearl. When released, it stayed on the #1 spot on the charts for weeks. More hits followed from others: Ray Price, Joe Simon, Bobby Bare, O.C. Smith, Jerry Lee Lewis, Patti Page, and Peggy Little. Kristofferson released his second album, The Silver-Tongued Devil and I, in 1971. The album was a success and established Kristofferson's career as a recording artist in his own right. Soon after, Kristofferson made his acting debut in The Last Movie and appeared at the Isle of Wight Festival. In 1971, he acted in Cisco Pike and released his third album, Border Lord. The album was all new material and sales were sluggish. He also swept the Grammy Awards that year with numerous songs nominated, winning Country Song of the Year for Help Me Make It Through the Night. Kristofferson's 1972 fourth album, Jesus Was a Capricorn, initially had slow sales, but the third single, Why Me, was a success and significantly increased album sales. Film: for the next few years, Kristofferson focused on acting. He appeared in Bloom in Love and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. He continued acting in Sam Peckinpah's Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, Convoy Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Vigilante Force, a film based on the Yukio Mishima novel The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with a C, and A Star Is Born, for which he received a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor and Flashpoint in 1984. At the peak of his box office power, Kristofferson turned down both William Friedkin's Sorcerer, the romantic war film Hanover Street, and the first Rambo installment, First Blood. In spite of his success with Streisand, Kristofferson's solo musical career headed downward with his non-charting ninth album, Shake Hands with the Devil. His next film Freedom Road did not earn a theatrical release in the US. Kristofferson's next film was Heaven's Gate. Despite being a phenomenal industry-changing failure at the time, the film gained critical recognition in subsequent years. In 1986, he starred in The Last Days of Frank and Jesse James with Johnny Cash. In 1989, he was the male lead in the film Millennium with Cheryl Ladd. He earned a supporting role as Charlie Wade, a corrupt South Texas sheriff in John Sayles' Lone Star, a film nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. In 1998, he took a role in the film Blade, playing alongside Wesley Snipes as Blade's mentor Abraham Whistler. He reprised the role in Blade 2 and again in Blade, Trinity. In 1999, he co-starred with Mel Gibson in Payback. He was in the 2001 version of Planet of the Apes. He has also played the title character Jorn as an old man in the Norwegian film Jorn the Children Wanderer. In 2011, he co-starred with Harry Connick, Jr., Ashley Judd, Nathan Gamble and Dolphin Tale in the 2014 sequel, Dolphin Tale 2. In 2012, Kristofferson was in Joyful Noise with Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah 4. In 2013, Kristofferson co-starred in the Motel Life opposite Emile Hirsch, Stephen Dorff, and Dakota Fanning. Mid-career, after his singing success in the early 70s, Kristofferson met singer Rita Coolidge. They married in 1973 and released an album titled Full Moon, another success buoyed by numerous hit singles and Grammy nominations. However, his fifth album, Spooky Ladies Sideshow, released in 1974, was a commercial failure, setting the trend for most of the rest of his career. Artists such as Ronnie Milsap and Johnny Duncan continued to record Kristofferson's material with much success, but his distinctively rough voice and anti-pop sound kept his own audience to a minimum. Meanwhile, more artists took his songs to the top of the charts, including Willie Nelson, whose 1979 LP release of Sings Kristofferson reached number 5 on the U.S. country music chart and certified platinum in the U.S. In 1979, Kris Kristofferson traveled to Havana, Cuba, to participate in the historic Havana Jam festival that took place between March 2 4, alongside Rita Coolidge, Stephen Stills, the CBS Jazz All-Stars, the Trio of Doom, Fania All-Stars, Billy Swan, Bonnie Bramlett, Mike Finnegan, Weather Report, and Billy Joel, plus an array of Cuban artists such as Araca, Paco Alonso, Tata Gar 1/4 and Orquesta Arriga Cubden. His performances captured on Ernesto Juan Castellanos' documentary Havana Jam 79. On November 18, 1979, Kristofferson and Coolidge appeared on The Muppet Show. Later work: in 1982, Kristofferson participated on The Winning Hand, a double album consisting of remastered and updated performances of recordings the four artists had made for the Monument label during the mid-1960s. The album reached the top 10 on the U.S. country album charts. He married again, to Lisa Mayers, and concentrated on films for a time, appearing in The Lost Honor of Catherine Beck, Flashpoint, and Songwriter, the last of which also starred Willie Nelson. Kristofferson was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song Score. Music from Songwriter was a massive country success. Nelson and Kristofferson continued their partnership, and added Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash to form the supergroup The Highwaymen. Their first album, Highwaymen, was a huge success, and the supergroup continued working together for a time. The single from the album Highwaymen, also titled Highwaymen, was awarded the ACM Single of the Year in 1985. In 1985, Kristofferson starred in Trouble in Mind and released Repossessed, a politically aware album that was a country success, particularly They Killed Him, a tribute to his heroes, including Martin Luther King, Jr., Jesus, and Mahatma Gandhi. Kristofferson also appeared in America at about the same time, a miniseries that attempted to depict life in America under Soviet control. In spite of the success of Highwaymen 2 in 1990, Kristofferson's solo recording career slipped significantly in the early 1990s, though he continued to record successfully with the Highwaymen. Lone Star reinvigorated Kristofferson's acting career, and he soon appeared in Blade, Blade 2, Blade, Trinity, A Soldier's Daughter Never Cries, Fire Down Below, Tim Burton's remake of Planet of the Apes, Chelsea Walls, Payback, The Jacket and Fast Food Nation. The Songwriters Hall of Fame inducted Kristofferson in 1985, as had the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame earlier, in 1977. 1999 saw the release of the Austin Sessions, an album on which Kristofferson reworked some of his favorite songs with the help of befriended artists such as Mark Knopfler, Steve Earle and Jackson Browne. In 2003, Broken Freedom Song was released, a live album recorded in San Francisco. In 2004, he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In 2006, he received the Johnny Mercer Award from the Songwriters Hall of Fame and released his first album full of new material in 11 years. This Old Road. On April 21, 2007, Kristofferson won CMT's Johnny Cash Visionary Award. Rosanne Cash, Cash's daughter, presented the honor during the April 16 awards show in Nashville. Previous recipients include Cash, Hank Williams, Jr., Loretta Lynn, Reba McEntire and the Dixie Chicks. John was my hero before he was my friend, and anything with his name on it is really an honor in my eyes, Kristofferson said during a phone interview. I was thinking back to when I first met him, and if I ever thought that I'd be getting an award with his name on it, it would have carried me through a lot of hard times. In July 2007, Kristofferson was featured on CMT's Studio 330 Sessions, where he played many of his hits. On June 13, 2008, Kristofferson performed an acoustic in the Rounds set with Patty Griffin and Randy Owen for a special taping of a PBS Songwriters series to be aired in December. Each performer played 5 songs. Kristofferson's included The Best of All Possible Worlds, Darby's Castle, Casey's Last Ride, Me and Bobby McGee, and Here Comes That Rainbow Again. Taping was done in Nashville. Kristofferson released a new album of original songs entitled Closer to the Bone on September 29, 2009. It is produced by Don Was on the New West label. Previous to the release, Kristofferson remarked, "I like the intimacy of the new album. It has a general mood of reflecting on where we all are at this time of life." On November 10, 2009, Kristofferson was honored as a BMI icon at the 57th Annual BMI Country Awards. Throughout his career, Kristofferson's songwriting has garnered 48 BMI Country and Pop Awards. He later remarked, "The great thing about being a songwriter is you can hear your baby interpreted by so many people that have creative talents vocally that I don't have." Kristofferson had always denied having a good voice, and as he aged, what quality it might once have had commenced to decay. In December 2009, it was announced that Kristofferson would be portraying Joe in the upcoming album Ghost Brothers of Darkland County, a collaboration between rock singer John Mellencamp and novelist Stephen King. On May 11, 2010, Light in the Attic Records is releasing demos that were recorded during Kristofferson's janitorial stint at Columbia. Please Don't Tell Me How the Story Ends, the publishing demos is the first time these recordings have been released and includes material that would later be featured on other Kristofferson recordings and on the recordings of other prominent artists, such as the original recording of Me and Bobby McGee. On June 4, 2011, Kristofferson performed a solo acoustic show at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, showcasing both some of his original hits made famous by other artists, and newer songs. Personal life: Kristofferson has been married 3 times and has 8 children. In 1960, Kristofferson married his high school sweetheart Frances Beer. They had 2 children, a daughter, Tracy, and a son, Chris, before divorcing in 1969. Afterwards, Kristofferson dated Janis Joplin, not long before her death, before dating Barbra Streisand. In a 1983 Rolling Stone interview, Joan Baez said that she and Kristofferson had had a brief fling somewhere around 1970-71. In 1973, he married singer Rita Coolidge and together they had one child, Kris Kristofferson. They divorced in 1980. In 1983, he married Lisa Mayers and together they have 5 children: son Jesse Turner, son Jody Ray, son Johnny Robert, daughter Kelly Marie and son Blake Cameron. Kristofferson wrote a portion of the I'll Be Here in the Morning, the songwriting legacy of Townes Van Zandt book. Kristofferson had said that he would like the first 3 lines of Leonard Cohen's Bird on the Wire on his tombstone. Like a bird on a wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free. Discography. Filmography, see also, references. Further reading, Bernhardt, Jack. Kris Kristofferson. In the Encyclopedia of Country Music. Paul Kingsbury, editor. New York, Oxford University Press ppA 286/7. External links, Kris Kristofferson official website, The Old Oxonian Blues 1959 profile in Time, Kristofferson at the Country Music Hall of Fame, New West Records, Kris Kristofferson, Kris Kristofferson at the Internet Movie Database, Kris Kristofferson at AllMovie, Kris Kristofferson at me.com.